So you've been working in the comic book industry for like 40 years?
142 years.
It's I'm sure the landscape has changed a lot, but can you tell us what was it like breaking into the industry at that time and during that time period?
I got a job at Marvel Comics in 1985. I'd been in book publishing for 2 years, working at Berkeley Books, which is a paperback book publisher. And as often happens in publishing, which is an incredibly low-paying field, you get a job by knowing someone who knows someone who knows someone who works somewhere. Or you get a raise. The guy who hired me the day I got hired at Berkeley Publishing said, you get a raise by leaving and coming back. That's how you get a raise in publishing. So he said, if you're still doing this job in 6 months, either you suck or I suck. Let's see which one it is. The day he hired me, he said that. So I was working at Berkeley Publishing, and I liked it just fine. It was a good group of people, everything else. But a friend of one of my softball teammates on the company team who worked at Putnam, the hardcover imprint, has a sister working at Marvel, and she's looking to hire an assistant. And I had applied at Marvel and DC out of college. I didn't get either job, justifiably, because I didn't have the experience they were looking for. They were looking at like an entry-level management position, and I was looking for entry-level positions. Right. So I applied to the job at Marvel as her manufacturing assistant, working for Marvel Books, which was not what you think of today as trade paperbacks, hardcovers, all that stuff. It was actually Marvel press posters, which were these for sale posters that we were doing for the direct market. And Marvel's book line was actually Fisher Price activity books for kids. In their never-ending quest to be embarrassed about comic books, the president of the company, James Galton, and the publisher of the company, Mike Hobson, had signed a big deal with Fisher Price to create activity books, coloring books, all of that stuff as an entry into mainstream retail as opposed to newsstand retail and direct market. So my job was to help her work with the manufacturers, the external printers, publishers, typesetters. Back then that was still typesetting, all of that stuff. And I did not want to be in manufacturing, but it was my foot in the door.
Right.
So 4 months into that job, I find out that the guy who got hired instead of me 2 years earlier, when we interviewed for a job in the promotion department, was looking for an assistant. So I talked to him about that job, told him why I wanted it. He was a difficult, challenging guy, but it was interesting, and I wanted to do it because that's what I wanted to do. I went to college for public relations and advertising, and I thought I could really make a mark on the company by helping them with their promotion and their advertising. He hired me not knowing that he was getting a boss hired over him at the same exact time. So all of a sudden we became a little mini department. It was a promotion and publicity. It was a promotion and publicity department, and we were the promotion and advertising side of that. Publicity was this other woman. So a year after being the assistant general, knockabout guy, he named me advertising manager. So I was Marvel's advertising manager by fall of 1987, and my job was all the Marvel house ads, which are the ads that appear in the books for the books,
right.
All the Marvel promo posters that went out to the direct market, all the Marvel co-op ads, all the Marvel for retailers and things like that, all the Marvel giveaways and promotional giveaways at conventions and things like that. So I'm responsible for the creation of all of that, working with an out-of-house ad agency and doing all of that. So I'm breaking in not an editorial, not as a writer. That came later. Right. And I'm breaking in at a time when there's incredible strife within the company. Jim Shooter had been an incredibly successful editor-in-chief, but many of the things that he did to create a structured editorial program are the very kinds of things that begin to wear thin on people. There's a little bit of a draconian approach that has to be taken, that he did take, but once the engine's up and running and it's smooth, then what the hell are you over-tightening individual bolts for, So that was kind of the issue going on. So there was a tremendous amount of internal strife within editorial. There was a tremendous amount of strife between editorial and sales, because the head of sales did not get along with Shooter and with many of the editors. So I'm in the middle of all of this. and literally in the middle of all this, because my job is to interact with all of them.
Right.
So I got to interact with editorial, with licensing, with manufacturing, with production, with international publishing, and it was actually the best job in the world for me at that time. I'm in my mid-20s, and I'm sticking my fingers in the pies of every single department to get an idea of what they do, who they are, what they're like, all of that stuff. So leading up to New Universe failure in 1987, which was Shooter's gigantic 25th anniversary promotional launch, let's celebrate 25 years of Marvel by ignoring 25 years of Marvel. We didn't understand it, we didn't like it, nobody in the offices. For me, it was great because it was my first writing assignment.
Right.
I sold my first comic to a New Universe title, which was Cyforce. I was almost immediately named the monthly writer of Cyforce, much to the chagrin and frustration of many internally. And the best thing that could have happened in many ways for the company at that time, and for me personally in my career, was that Jim got fired. And I like Jim, I respect him tremendously, I think he's a hugely intelligent man, but he needed to stop being editor-in-chief, because I personally believe it's a job that has a 5-year cycle. And after 5 years, you should probably be looking to do something else.
Right.
And when Jim got fired, and Tom became editor-in-chief, and Mark Grunwald became executive editor, it was honestly almost as if you drew the curtains open and sunshine was outside. And all of a sudden, everyone starts getting along a little better. Editorial is far less torqued. My job is easier because we can start communicating without them being worried about being contradicted or being reprimanded by Jim or whatever. So it's not fair to Jim, but it is just an absolute fact that that the place became a much, much happier place to be after '87. And you can see it from everything that happened. So sales start increasing across the board. The direct market stuff that we do starts expanding across the board. So from 88 to 92, 93, it was the best place in the world to be. It really was. Everyone's getting along. We're all going out after work. We're having lunches. People from different departments are starting to talk to each other more, getting along better, everything. It's not Pollyanna. I'm not saying, but it was what it was. It was real. Then we get bought by Perlman. And I'm Ron Perlman, not the actor, Ron Perlman, the billionaire scumbag. So Ron Perlman, the billionaire scumbag, buys Marvel, and we think this is fantastic. Finally, someone with money is going to put money into expanding our brand. Right. And the Chinese proverb, "Do not wish for you may receive," is 100% true, because Ron Perlman brings money to the table, a hunger to expand the company, but for all the wrong reasons. The reasons he wants to expand the company is because he sees short-term profit in increasing its sales, either flipping it or going public and making a killing off the stock. He went, let's make it public and let's make a killing off the stock, which is exactly what he did. So he starts buying, instead of licensing trading cards that are hugely successful through Skybox, he decides to buy Fleer. Instead of licensing toys through Toy Biz or Mattel or whatever, he decides to buy Toy Biz. Each of those companies come with hundreds of millions of purchase debt onto Marvel, so all of a sudden Marvel is bankrupt in the mid-90s.